Ko te ora, Flavel.
Tēnā koe, Mr. Chair, kia ora tātou, i te whare, i tēnei pō. Mr. Chair, I want to take a call on Clause 9, as other speakers have, the transitional provisions, and in particular the direction this section applies to, with regards to the establishment date in the 1st of January 2012. I think it's very important that while we're debating the provision of this bill tonight, that there is a critical action taking place in front of the Waitangi Tribunal, sir, at the instigation of Te Mana Akonga. And what's Te Mana Akonga? That's the National Māori Tertiary Students Association. This is an urgent action which has only come to bear because of the significance given at Te Huinga Tauira 2011. What's Te Huinga Tauira? Well, for many years now, Māori students get together to discuss issues, debate issues that happen to be current, and indeed, I suppose, all about student life. Well, last week, over 250 Māori students gathered for Te Huinga Tauira at Ngā Whare Wātea up in Māngere at Auckland. And part of the discussions at that hui, Mr. Chair, included the breaking news at the time, that Te Mana Akonga had lodged a claim with the Waitangi Tribunal against this bill. And the students have asked that this House tonight do what is necessary to ensure that they are heard, and indeed the case is heard in front of the Waitangi Tribunal before the bill is an act. Now I know that's pretty tight timelines, but things can happen in a short space in time if you really want them to happen. At this point then, I guess I'm calling on the compassion and the understanding of all the parties in the House to listen to the views of a number of the Māori organisations, Māori student organisations that have been in touch with the Māori Party over this issue. I'm talking about Te Mana Akonga, the National Association, Ngai Tauira from Wellington, the Welltech Students Association, Manawatahi Massey University, Ngā Tauira Māori from Auckland, Te Aka Toki from Christchurch, Te Rōpū Māori from Dunedin, Te Awhi Oraki from Christchurch, Te Waka o Ngā Akonga Māori, and all of the alumni of Māori Students Associations throughout the country. Mr. Hinari. Mr. Chair, the claim has come from all Māori students. Tauira Māori has come from whānau, hapu and iwi, and importantly it comes from the perspective of being stakeholders and beneficiaries in the New Zealand tertiary education system. So it's their claim that Te Mana Akonga and all Māori tertiary students have been and continue to be prejudicially affected by policy and practices adopted by the Crown and exercised on its behalf by successive agencies, and now by this bill in particular. Mr. Chair, fast-tracking this legislation to take effect from the 1st of January 2012 as in this transitional provision, in effect is a massive slap in the face for Tauira Māori. And I know that Mr. Hinari was at that hui, because we did obviously hear about that, and he had to defend pretty much this legislation. But in this case, clearly we've been lobbied by the Māori Students Association and fully behind them. So I want to lay out simply as I can the case that is now proceeded through the Waitangi Tribunal, so that every member in this House can go on record and vote, knowing full well that they are voting against the claims put to Parliament by Tauira Māori. So it's their contention that this bill will, 1, diminish the rights of Tauira Māori to form rōpū, 2, diminish the right of those rōpū to exercise tino rangatiratanga over Māori student issues, including representation, whanaungatanga, manaakitanga, tuakana teina, kotaitanga, me ona tikanga, and 3, will diminish the right of Tauira and Rōpū to form a national representative entity to ensure fair and just tertiary education policies in Aotearoa, New Zealand. So these are very important points that I hope that this Parliament will give sufficient time to address. Te Mana Akonga conclude that the policy and practice of the Crown stemming from this bill fails to protect Māori student rights, as stated earlier, and that this is contrary to Te Tiriti o Waitangi 1840 and Te Whakaputanga o Ngā Rangatira o New Tireni 1835. Mr. Chair, they have therefore sought 2 very clear requests. 1, that this bill is abolished, and 2, that provisions be made to protect Tauira Māori, their local rōpū and their national representation, Te Mana Akonga. Mr Chair, I think that the case is pretty clear. The Crown's failure to consult with Tauira Māori is a breach of the Crown's duty to act. Mr Chair,
Te Aro Flavel.
the Crown's duty to act reasonably and in good faith as directed under Te Tiriti o Waitangi. That's important for them and for us. It is the very strong view of the students that this bill will result in prejudicial effects against Tauira Māori in the tertiary sector and the impact on the overall framework provided by students' associations which assist in strengthening the support of Tauira Māori. They contend also that the Crown's inaction to include and or provide research and analysis into the impact of the bill on Tauira Māori, their whānau, hapua and iwi development and advancement is sufficiently dire to warrant that this bill be thrown out from the order of the day. Mr Chair, this bill will stop the much needed national Māori student representation that will assist in helping to contribute to inform and change government policy and legislation into the future, and as I say, and it should be pretty clear that the Māori Party opposes it in the strongest possible way. Point of order, Mr Speaker.
Point of order, Te Aro Flavel.
Mr Speaker, Mr Chair, I seek leave of the House that this bill be suspended immediately.
Leave is sought for that purpose. Is there any objection? There is objection. Cool.
Point of order.
Point of order, Te Aro Flavel.
Mr Speaker, I seek leave of the House that this bill be referred in its entirety to the Waitangi Tribunal under Section 8 of the Treaty of Waitangi Act 1975.
Leave is sought for that purpose. Is there any objection? There is objection. Call David Shearer.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. It's very interesting